What's good, YouTube? It's your boy ABN, and we back with another video. Now, today I want to talk about Job, specifically the first chapter of Job. Now, the reason what brought me to Job, right, was that I'm always hearing about Job. I'm always getting chapters like you need to read this verse, you need to read this chapter. I'm always hearing about Job, just to basically sum it up, right? And I'm like, all right, from my premise, from my knowledge, it's like, okay, I know this much about Job, but let me learn more about Job since I keep hearing about it. You feel me? So I did, before I opened up my Bible this morning, I prayed, and I'm always asking God for enlightenment. I'm always asking for understanding, for revelation, so that whenever I read, if I see something or I come across something that God wants me to speak on, that God wants to saturate on my spirit, on my mind, on my thoughts, that he makes that evident to me as I'm reading, as I'm thinking about it, as I'm taking notes. You know what I'm saying? So that's what we're going to be at today. We're going to be at the first chapter of Job. For those of you that do not know about Job, Job was, of course, back in the day, the Old Testament, if you will. Back in the day specifically, Job was, I would personally say Job was like the richest, if not one of the richest men in the East, being that he had a lot of cattle, he had a lot of servants, he had a lot of land, he had a lot of everything. He blessed, he said burnt offerings up to God. He covered his family. He had a lot of children. Like he had it all. Job had it all. And he was a righteous man. His integrity was complete, perfect integrity. Job's friends thought he was self-righteous, but Job viewed himself as a righteous man. God knew of Job's integrity. So that's just a premise, if you will. I'm about to do a little reading so that we can follow along at the same time so that nobody's lost. All right, Job chapter 1, verse 1. I'm gonna just sum up the important parts, and I'm gonna highlight everything that I want you guys to focus on that'll bring my point to the forefront. And I guess now would be a good time to go over my point. Thinking about the first chapter. I got it. Now, I'm about to just do a little reading to give you the important pieces that's going to help bring through my point. And we're going to hit some points within my point to shed some light on Job and what he went through. And it's like, man, stick with me, stay with me. We're going to connect all the dots. And that should bring forth gratitude, understanding, peace, like a lot of thankfulness, a lot of gratitude, for sure. All right, let's get to it. Job 1:1, right, talks about Job and his family. There was a man in the country of Uz named Job. He was a man of complete integrity. He feared God and he turned away from evil. He had 7 sons and 3 daughters. His estate included 7,000 sheep and goats, 3,000 camels, 500 yoke of oxen, 500 female donkeys, and a very large number of servants. Job was the greatest man among all the people in the East. Pause right there, just going over that. He had all that. Not only because I'm reading from the Christian Standard Bible, right, that version. To me, not only was he the greatest man in all the East, it sounded like this man was the richest man in all the East. He got all that, all them assets, if you will. You know what I'm saying? He got all these servants, cattle, sheep, oxen, everything. You feel me? Of course, he got land because you got to have land to have all this, right? How you going to keep 5,000 oxen in an apartment? You know what I'm saying? All right, moving on, right? So to me, not only was he the greatest man in the East, according to the Bible, well, among, you know what I'm saying? Let me see. Yeah, he was the greatest man among all the people of the East. Not only was that, but to me, it sounded like he was the richest also. That's Job 1, Job 3. Sorry, Job chapter 1, verses 1 through 3. Now we're going to go down to Job 1, and I'm going to read from verse 6 to verse what? From verse 6 to verse 22. But in the midst of me reading, I'm going to be breaking it up to convey those important points that I want y'all to pick up on. You got me? All right, stay with me now. Job 1:6. One day the sons of God came to present themselves before the Lord, and Satan also came with them. The Lord asked Satan, "Where have you come from?" "From roaming the earth." Satan answered him, and walking around on it. Number one, the sons of God came to present themselves before the Lord, and Satan came with them. God talking to his sons, right? And Satan just walked on in. You feel me? What is Satan doing? God basically asked Satan, like, where you come from? God know these answers. God know these things, you feel me? He asked Satan, where you come from? And Satan basically said, what I want everybody to pick up on and understand. Satan answers saying, from roaming the earth. This man roams the earth. This creature, this spirit roams the earth. This entity roams the earth and walking around on it. I mean, he also got a whole kingdom and everything, but we're not going to get into that. That's a whole other rabbit hole. That's no other kingdom, principalities, unclean spirits, but we're not going to get into all that. God's talking about Satan. He ain't talking about his kingdom, all the principalities and all the angels that fell with Satan when he fell. God asked Satan where he was coming from. You feel me? We can cover all that in another time, in another video. We're going to stay right here because I don't like getting off track. You feel me? Anyway, then the Lord said to Satan, this is verse 8, have you considered my servant Job? No one else on earth is like him, a man of perfect integrity, who fears God and turns away from evil. So, right there, we're going to pause right there, right? God knows what Satan does. God knows what Satan's job is. God understands what Satan's job is. Henceforth, with that understanding of Satan and his job and his role, God basically pitches Job to Satan. Again, saying, have you considered my servant Job? No one else on earth is like him, a man of perfect integrity who fears God and turns away from evil. Now, unlike God, Satan don't know everything. Satan is not omnipresent, nor does he know everything. Satan is like, he sees what's in front of him. You know what I'm saying? If somebody in this kingdom tell him something, then that's how he knows something. You feel me? He's not omnipresent. He does not know it all. He does not have the understanding. He is nowhere near God. You feel me? Nowhere near. You feel me? Moving on. Again, God understands Satan's position, his role, his assignment, what he has to, what he does, what he has to do. You know what I'm saying? And because of that, God pitches Job to Satan. Because God has a plan. God always has a plan. Boom. Just know that God has a plan. And if you know about the Bible, you know about from reading the Bible and spending time with God, right? You will know all things work together for those who love the Lord. That's very important right there. Remember that all things work together. All things work for the good of those who love the Lord. It's somewhere along those lines. I'm paraphrasing, I'm summarizing it. Feel free to Google it. They'll give you the exact verse with the exact verbiage and in the different variations of the word that you could read. You feel me? Anyway, that's very important. Remember that. Moving on to Job chapter 1, verse 9. Satan answered the Lord, does Job fear God for nothing? Haven't you placed a hedge around him, his household, and everything he owns? You have blessed the work of his hands and his possessions, and have increased in the land. And his possessions have increased in the land. But stretch out your hand and strike everything he owns, and he will surely curse you to your face. So right there, right? After God pitches Job to Satan, Satan then questions God, and he brings up a point again. But God already know everything, right? So he know where you're going. He know where you're going before you go there. He know what you're about to talk about, what you're thinking about, etc., etc. Satan questions God and brings up a point. Satan basically says to God, right? Does he fear you for nothing? You have a hedge of protection. Again, very important. People have hedges. If you're smart, you would want a hedge of protection around you, your family, your possessions now. You feel me? And for the rest of your life. You know what I'm saying? But again, getting back to the story, right? Job 1:8. Job chapter 1, verse 9 through 11. Satan basically asks God, like, does he fear you for nothing? You have a hedge of protection around him, around his family, around his possessions. You bless him, you anoint him. His everything has grown. He is in abundance because of you. Does he fear you for nothing? Like, if you take these things away, he will curse you. If you like let him fall on bad times, right? He will curse your name. He will yell at you. He will scream at you. He will disown you. You know what I'm saying? Satan's like, yeah, he's like this because of what you give him, because of what you provide for him. His love for you is conditional. That's what Satan is basically saying to God. Job's love for you is conditional because of all the things you have blessed him with, because of the ways you anoint him, because of how you allow him to grow and have all these things in abundance. God knows his servant. God knows him. You know what I'm saying? So God, like, very well. Verse 12, right? We still in chapter 1, verse 12. God says, very well, the Lord told Satan, everything he owns is in your power. However, do not lay a hand on Job himself. Satan left the Lord's presence. God basically like bet. Everything he owns is yours. Just do not touch his life. Satan was like, say less, and left the Lord's presence. Now, it's about to kick off right here, and this is only chapter 1, and we're gonna stop at chapter 1 today. But I want y'all to think about everything that's about to happen, right? After Satan left his presence, left the Lord's presence, from verse 13 to verse 19, this man, Satan, this creature, this entity, this spirit, Satan was having his way with Job, boy. When I tell you he was having his way with Job, he was having his way with Job. You have bad days out here now. Them bad days ain't got nothing on Job, what Job went through in a day. Y'all have bad days, weeks, months, years. This man, Job, had probably the worst day in history. The worst day in history. People complain, I'm going through this, whatever the case is, right? Woody woo, all that, right? This man, Job, had the worst day in history. I'm about to read everything this man, Job, went through in one day. And I want you to reflect on, compare that to what, we find ourselves complaining about. And it's like, and again, before we forget, God pitched Job to Satan you could say to test him, if you will, but God already knows the outcome of it all. You know what I'm saying? If you want to get ahead of me and read, you could do that. I'm in the book of Job, but God already knows the outcome of it all. Remember I said, all things work for the good of those who love the Lord. I believe I already established the premise, the understanding, right, that Job loves the Lord. And Satan is basically challenging that, like, he loves you because of what you do. His love for you, Lord, is conditional because of what you do, what you provide for him. And God is basically like, bet, have your way with him. Just don't touch his life. Now, getting back to Job chapter 1, right? I'm going to read from verse 13 to verse 19. One day, when Job's sons and daughters were eating and drinking wine in their oldest brother's house, a messenger came to Job and reported, while the oxen were plowing and the donkeys grazing nearby, Saban swooped down and took them away. They struck down the servants with the sword, and I alone have escaped to tell you. So some servants died, and some of his assets, if you will, animals, right, donkeys, oxen, whatever, was taken away. Verse 16, he was still speaking when another messenger came and reported, God's fire fell from heaven and burned the sheep and the servants and devoured them, and I alone have escaped to tell you. Now, this is right after another servant just came and told Job that some of your servants was killed off, your oxen were stolen, your donkeys were stolen. And now another servant ran in and said, yeah, God's fire fell from heaven and it burned the sheep and the servants. All the same day. Same day. Verse 17. That messenger was still speaking when yet another came and reported. The Chaldeans, I'm probably pronouncing that wrong. You can read it on your own if you get a better pronunciation. Cool. You know what I'm saying? Same understanding, right? These people formed 3 bands, made a raid on the camels and took them away. They struck down the servants with swords, and I alone have escaped to tell you. So a group of people called the Chaldeans, right? Called the Chaldeans. A group of people called the Chaldeans came together and struck down his servants and took what? What did it take? Camels? They took his camels. You know what I'm saying? And this is, again, same thing. Verse 18. He was still speaking when another messenger came and reported, your sons and daughters were eating and drinking wine in their older brother's house. Suddenly, a powerful wind swept in from the desert and struck the four corners of the house. It collapsed on the young people so that they died. And I alone have escaped to tell you. That was verse 19. I just finished reading from verse 13 to 19. All this happened in a day. All of this happened in a day. One after another. Again, Satan was having his way with Job. Verse 20. Again, this is all in one day. Satan having his way. God oversees everything. All things work together for the good of those who love the Lord. Verse 20. Then Job stood up, tore his robe, shaved his head. He fell to the ground and worshiped, saying, naked I came from my mother's womb, and naked I will leave this life. The Lord gives and the Lord takes away. Blessed be the name of the Lord. Verse 22. Throughout all this, Job did not sin or blame God for anything. Throughout all that, Job still did not sin or blame God for anything. Job said out of his own mouth, the Lord gives and the Lord takes away. Satan had his way with Job. I'm not sure if it's the end of the day, but Satan had his way with Job in chapter 1. And Job still did not curse his name. Now, I want y'all to just sit there and reflect on that and really think about how we get hit with unexpected expenses, drama, BS, bad drivers on the road. You feel me? We get hit all different kinds of ways. But this man, Job, had the worst day in history, and he did not curse the Lord. He did not blame the Lord. Just that understanding, just knowing, because Job knows who the Lord is. Job knows the Lord. He loves the Lord. I hope y'all enjoyed the reading from today. Stay tuned the next time I do another video, or I promise you this, I will revisit Job, and we're going to read chapter 2, and we can keep reading the book of Job. I personally enjoyed that reading. I hope y'all did too. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, let me know in the comment section. Like, subscribe, share. I appreciate y'all. I'm out. Peace.